Now, we've also been talking over the last 6 months, and it was definitely a promise of at least two of the coalition partners that they would look at the way in which the Māori are treated in this country in particular, and look at ways in which to improve educational performance, obviously, of Māori in our schools, but on the same stage also try and correct what they perceive to be policies that seem to advantage Māori over others. And one of those was manifested in the election policies of both the ACT and New Zealand First when it came to the provision of Māori wards in councils, local government. Now, the story used to be with Māori wards that any council could, in actual fact, after a period of consultation, go and create one. I tried to create one in Wanganui way back 20 years ago. I'll tell you about that story because it's quite revealing a little bit later on. But that, and indeed there is a requirement under the Local Government Act of 2002 to make sure that Māori, not iwi, Māori, that their participation in local government is boosted. And one way of doing that, obviously, is with Māori wards. But that concept ran foul of many in communities who democratically said, no, we don't want that. And so a referendum of locals, I don't think there has been one Māori ward that has democratically been chosen in this country by referendum. Pretty sure there hasn't been. Most now, 35 councils throughout New Zealand do have Māori wards. They've mostly been the creation of the councils themselves. And the government has said, this coalition government, you can do that, but you still need the consent of your community to do so. And we are now mandatorily ensuring that if you are going to institute a Māori ward, we're not going to stop you doing it, but you do need to have majority consent from the community that you represent. Joining us to talk about that, and this is, I think, her first term in actual fact, because we've talked with her before, is the first elected Māori ward councillor for the Kaipara district up north, Pera Paniora, and she joins us now. Pera, lovely to have you on the show again. How are you?
Kia ora, Morena, Michael. I'm good, thank you.
Now, first of all, just take me back a bit. Take me back to the last election. Was that the first you elected 2022, yeah?
Yep, October 2022, so I'm a first-term councillor.
And was that the first time that Kaipara had a Māori ward?
Absolutely.
Right. And how did that Māori ward get created?
So that Māori ward got caught up in the reforms through Minister Mahuta. And so at that time, our now Mayor Jackson and then another councillor, Ash Neer, were at the same time presenting the petition to the council to, hold that binding referendum. That was following the then council's decision to establish a Māori ward. So what they did was they put it on hold and paused it because the writing was on the wall that particular provision was being reformed. And so Kaipara waited, and then, subsequently the Māori ward was established.
Now, so that was established by your council?
Yeah, by the then council, correct, without holding the
referendum. Okay. So as I understand it, the election will go, you are, is there just you, Pera? Are you the only?
Yeah,
right.
So in Taituki, we've got all three district councils have established Māori wards, and then our regional council, Northern Regional Council, also has established Māori wards, and each of those have more than one Māori councillor. So I'm actually the only Māori councillor at Kaipara district.
So are you the only councillor sitting around the council table of Māori descent?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. And what is the composition of Kaipara in terms of Māori population?
Yeah, well, interestingly, in the West, we call it over near Dargaville, we've actually got 40% Māori population according to the old census. So we're obviously just waiting on the updated results from that, which I'm sure will be an increase. Over on the east there and what we call mangawhai. We don't have the statistics for that just because mangawhai was kind of amalgamated into our district. And so we don't really have some good data on that, but it would be interesting to see what that is. But as you might know, I'm elected at large, similar to the mayor. So my ward includes all of the ward boundaries that we have. So
now, I've also looked at the turnout for the 2022 election across the ward. So for the mayor, you've got 3 wards, I think. Kaiwaka, Mangawhai. You've got Otamatea, Wairoa, and then there's you. Is that right? There's 3 general wards and then there's you as the Māori ward.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Now, the thing that's interesting to me is that one of the reasons that Māori wards were instituted was to essentially give Māori a voice around the council table, because it was felt that Māori were not being elected around the council table. What was the story in Kaipara when you've got such a large Māori population that Māori weren't sitting around the council table or being represented?
Well, the story is, as you know, that we're a minority, and at the end of the day, it goes down to the number of votes that are cast, and so we'll always have more, non-Māori both running and elected, just due to the sheer number of votes. So people can come out and say, you should be able to get elected just like anyone else. Or how come never in the history of the Kaipara district have we had somebody around the table speaking on behalf of Māori and mandated, a mandated Māori voice? We had one councillor who had Māori descent, but she was very open in her reservations about speaking on behalf of Māori, because she didn't feel that she was elected by Māori. She felt that, anecdotally, she probably had a lot of support from Pākehā, and there were times where she wanted to speak up but didn't feel, she had that mandate or it was appropriate to speak.
Okay. Now, you are one of, so there's the mayor, and I'm just looking at it at the moment, there's what?
So there's 10 total of us.
There's 10 altogether, and you're one of the 10 plus the mayor. There's mayor plus 9? Is that right?
Yeah, mayor plus 9.
Okay. Now, I mean, the first thing, I guess, is what role do you play around the council table? How effective can you be as one of 9?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that, because that touches on the point that people keep on making is, what does a Māori ward councillor bring that a general ward councillor can't bring? But, I'd answer that question by asking another question is, what does a general ward councillor do that a Māori ward councillor can't do? And so we live in a representative democracy. So going back to the point that I made, that there are Māori constituents there that have elected to be on the Māori roll, who have then cast their votes for a Māori councillor to represent them at the table. And then that's, and then I received the most amount of votes, and so I have that mandate there to speak on behalf of Māori, but also obviously for the community at large. And so, otherwise, why would we need boundaries and why would we need wards? And that's fundamentally because the nature of the democracy is each councillor advocates for their neck of the woods. And it's similar to the Māori ward councillor as well.
Okay, but I'm assuming that when you sit around the council table, you have, despite coming out of wards, whatever ward it might be, whether it's geographic or ethnic, you are meant to be working, and presumably do, for the best interests of the district council in general, yeah? Is that right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At the first annual report that's been completed, I had 100% attendance at all of the council meetings that I was required to attend. That was the highest of any councillor I come prepared to all of the meetings, and I'm not afraid to voice, my opinion and the interests of the community, albeit with a heightened voice advocating for Māori. So I don't apologise for that. I've had a lot of criticism from the Mayor on this point, and I make no apologies for, going hard for matters that impact on Māori. We think about some of the ratepayers. The largest ratepayers in the Kaipara are actually Whatuora Trust, and so that's one of our iwi that I have, I'm a descendant of and have really good, strong relationships with, as well as Te Uriuho Settlement Trust, another large ratepayer that I also have strong relationships with, and am able to bring those interests, to the table. It's quite interesting because there's a lot of different Māori interests that come to our decision-making table, whether it's fees and charges for, iwi, to the way that we rate Māori land blocks, to district plans and the Māori purpose zone layer that we're currently considering, and how that will impact on Māori and also enable development. So there's often times where I'm very vocal, and it's not an easy job. People think, oh, well, that's a cruisy job. You'd be surprised at a lot of the time I give the other councillors a headache. And so,